Gabba gabba, hey, programming fans.
Welcome to deployment.
Off to a great start. By the end of this lesson, I hope that you will be able to differentiate between static and dynamic deployment. So we have two concepts here. Static deployment. And I want to start by having you just look that up for a little bit. Read about static deployment. I'm going to put 5 minutes on the clock. Find out everything you can about static deployment. Go!
I guess this would have been a good time to get water. Nice. Pro tip from a teacher. Somebody ever uses a permanent marker on your whiteboard, like somebody did here, and poorly tried to clean up, you write over it with the dry erase marker, gets rid of it. To this day, I don't know how it works.
Maybe it's like a solvent, it like takes the layer with it or something. That was all very
Yeah.
I know some of them words. How does that work? Well, we see it has to do with the bonds, the molecular. Covalent bonds.
I'd ask Ahmed, but he's got a pretty dumb some stuff in his life, so.
Oh, God.
We used to like roast Stephanie about how dumb she was for like half an hour a day. I don't know. Bless her soul. I think it brought the team together. But as soon as she left, Ahmed took her chair. That's when Ahmed started like, spilling stuff all over himself.
Poor Ahmed.
got to bust out that whiteboard trick with my oldest son when his little brother wrote on his whiteboard with a permanent marker. Miles, yeah! And Duncan wants to be a teacher, and so I said, "Oh, buddy, let me show you a cool teacher trick." I showed that.
Did he think you were like the coolest dad in the world?
Oh yeah. And he teach like. Okay, so Duncan told me his greatest dream the other day. It made him so happy. He said, "I dreamt that it was my birthday, and you and Mommy got me a projector, a mounting bracket for the projector, a big whiteboard, and a document camera."
I like how he mentions the bracket.
Oh yeah. Well, because like he saved up his money and he got a fucking projector, and he has been like just kludging together brackets out of like multiple yardsticks and duct tape, and he's bought wire hiders from Home Depot and like HDMI extension cords. It's a whole thing. And he wakes up every morning at like 6:30 and just charges downstairs so I can teach some lessons to his stuffed animals real quick. And then when he gets really frustrated, it's like he's struggling a little bit with reading, and he'll read, and I'll be like, "All right, and what's this word? What is this word? You know what? I'm not a reading teacher. I'm a math teacher. I don't need this." We'll throw a little tantrum. All right, so static deployment. Share with me some things that you found. Brad.
Magneto.
Magento?
Oh, yeah. About the not reading thing, I totally get what your son means.
Cool. So Magento, what else? Yeah.
Literally can't fucking read.
Oh, shut up.
You can trick Heroku into thinking it's a PHP site and attach it to static HTML files.
Okay. So hold on, say that again.
You can use Heroku and set it up as a PHP app.
Ah.
And then actually just put static HTML files.
So we can trick Heroku into doing static deployment if we want to pay 10 times as much than just using a static deployment service. Cool. What else? What else did we learn about static deployment? What is it? Fine, I'll just tell you. Static deployment is just some files. Come on. Try to draw a line at an angle on this thing. It's just some files. That's it. If I say, I have this index.html file, I have this app CSS file, I have this app.js file. Would you like them? Yeah. Here you go. That's static deployment. That's it. Doesn't have PHP installed, it doesn't have Node installed, doesn't have Ruby installed, doesn't have anything. It just has a big old bucket of files. You can ask for the files, it gives you the files that you ask for. It's like fancy Google Drive. Like Google Drive, if all the files you had on there, you could just give them URLs and then people could have them. That's static deployment. So, if I go to a bunch of files, like there we go. There's just 3 files in there, right? If I light server that, I am statically serving those files now. Fun thing, any of you, actually, Lily, go to this URL right here. What do you see?
I see the Kennel Club.
Cool. You also saw all these requests come in. Hit refresh. Watch it. Hey!
Oh, wow.
So, it asked for a file. The 200 means I gave it to him. Asked for the file, I gave it to him. Asked for the file, 304 means the one that you have is fine. All of these. Asked for a file that I didn't have, said that I don't have it. When Lily starts slamming on refresh, he goes, you already have it, you already have it, you already have it. I don't have a newer one than you do. So I'm not going to actually send you the file back. I'm just going to tell you, use the one that you have already. Cool. Lily, do a hard refresh. Like a shift command R. Cool. Fresh requests. This is static hosting. When you use Firebase or something, Firebase is doing this instead of Light Server, but it's the same idea. Deploying to Firebase is just giving them a folder of files. That's all. So if I look at something that I have Firebase set up for, like this. Where's my Firebase stuff? There it is. So I have two Firebase projects. One of them is Develop Denver, one of them is Develop Denver Staging. I've also set this up so that this folder right here is the public folder for this. When I do a Firebase deploy, it takes the files in this folder and throws them in that project on Firebase. That is literally all it does. Ta-da! That's static hosting. Yeah, Doug.
So it just happens to look appy because our browser speaks JavaScript, speaks all those particular languages.
Yep. So if your browser gets an HTML file, a CSS, and a JavaScript file, oh baby, we got a stew going. That's what makes it look like an app. Your browser is running those files, and that makes it an app. But Firebase didn't do anything. It didn't process the files. It didn't do shit with it. It just held on to them. Browser asked for them. Once they're in the browser, the thing that a browser does is take these three file types and runs them like an application. Ask me more questions about static sites.
Okay, so your Firebase app for the course content.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
I get there's like,
Great question.
there's like videos and like web pages.
Yeah.
But didn't you have like some user information like editing and that kind of stuff?
Mm-hmm. Totally.
So how does that live? That doesn't have that's a Firebase function, or has a back end somewhere, or how did all that?
This is that app, front end, back end. Let's take a look at the front end. So front end, cool thing about this is what you're doing with React right now, by the way, is I've got all these .view files and all these modules and all this like node shit, all those kinds of things. And when I type the magic command, Npm Run Build, it takes all of those files that I have, and it turns them into these two JavaScript files and this CSS file. There's also an HTML file in there. And it puts them into this folder. Also gives me some favicons. Gives me this HTML file. Doesn't look like much, but it doesn't have to. I didn't write this. This got generated. So there's an index.html file. There's all of that like JavaScript stuff is jammed into this file. This is all the JavaScript for that entire app. That's got the view stuff, that's got the my app stuff. It's all just
jammed together into one file. It's one line of one file. Why? Why did they make all the variables one letter and change all the lets and const to vars and for loops? And why did they do that?
Serve it faster.
Yeah, it's faster. It's called minimizing. So all of those many files that I have with all their beautiful white space and descriptive names, that's slow to serve. And so when I build the app, I'm replacing all the variables with just single letters. It functions the same, but it's a smaller file to send back. So I've got that for the JavaScript. The CSS. Hey, there's my font import. There's all my selectors. Cool. Same thing. It's just minimized it. Okay. So I've got the CSS, got the JavaScript, the Flatiron logo, any images that I have. All right. So I just have a folder of files. When I deploy the site, takes all of this entire folder, all these files, puts them on Firebase. And now you can get them too. And if you get them with a browser, it looks like an app.
Where are your videos stashed?
YouTube.
Oh, they're just links, okay.
Yep. So I upload those to YouTube, and then I put them in the database. Database, Kyle? Well, the database isn't a file. You're damn right it's not. So locally, I just run that on another port. Look them up there. That's a Node app. Attaches to a database. All that kind of shit. In production, backend goes on Heroku. That is a database. Because that means it's a Node app. So that means Node needs to be installed. Connects to a database. Cool. That means I also need to be running a database somewhere. I need to have something that can connect to a database. I have all that complexity. That's what Heroku does. You put that kind of stuff on Heroku. You put stuff that's just some files on Firebase. Or Netlify. And there's different dynamic solutions out there, different static solutions out there. So now it's time to expand our client-server diagram a little bit. Because I told you guys a little bit of a lie when we started doing this. So clients there, servers there. We send HTTP requests there, we get HTTP responses back. The server interacts with the database for us. Cool. The thing that we kind of like hand wave over a little bit, let's say we're like fetching data from the API. How is that happening? What triggers this? Right.
A fetch request?
Sure. How did the client know how to do a fetch request?
We told it to in JavaScript.
Where did the JavaScript come from? Not from the browser.
They like clicked on something.
Okay, but how did it get it to begin with? It can read the JavaScript and go, oh, the JavaScript's telling me to make a fetch request to the server. Can do. It does that, and it gets some shit back, and it adds stuff to the DOM and removes stuff from the DOM. Magic. Awesome. How did it get that JavaScript file to begin with? Where did the HTML come from?
We uploaded it to the client.
No, you didn't upload it to my browser. Didn't upload it to Lily's browser.
It was served.
It was served from another server. The server's in the house. So we have a static server over here. So you type in kylescoolapp.com. What happens?
The browser goes to the DNS and says, where's Kyle.com served at?
Hell yeah. So that's another thing in here. Because kylescoolapp.com, that's like a shortcut. It's IP address, right? We talked about that when we did web versus internet. Everything's got a little IP address. But rather than memorize the IP addresses of your favorite sites, like its phone numbers in 1989, we have a little shortcuts for them. kylescoolapp.com. DNS is the phone book that matches that with the IP address of like where this actually is. So I type that in. My client goes, "Yo, DNS, what's the IP address for that?" And your first DNS is in your computer. Like if you go to google.com and you get the IP address for that back, that gets saved in your computer. And the next time you go there, it's faster because it doesn't need to look it up next time. I don't have it. So I asked the DNS. Anybody know what the next one is?
Is your ISP, isn't it?
Sooner than that.
The router?
The router. The router for this building. If anybody in this building has been to google.com, cool, then that router knows the IP address. Done. That doesn't have it. Goes to your ISP. That doesn't have it. Probably goes somewhere else in the ISP. Doesn't have that. Cool. Ultimately, it's going to get resolved by whatever. So if it's kylescoolapp.com. .com is owned and managed by VeriSign. So you go, VeriSign, can you tell me where this is? And they go, no, but I can tell you who has that information authoritatively. And kylescoolapp.com was registered on Amazon Route 53, and they gave us this IP address that should be able to tell you the final address. All right, so all that resolves. Beep, 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 beep. Comes back to your browser. All right, it's at 129.0.35.2. That's where this site is. That happens to be pointing to Firebase. And so you go, cool, so that's the IP address for Firebase. But how does Firebase know where my files are, and not Lily's files, or Doug's files, or Brad's files? Well, that's why Flatiron. That's why it has this subdomain, flatiron-school-denver. So Firebase goes, oh, cool. So you want that stuff. I just got a fresh batch of files this very morning. So I asked for their index.html file, because if I didn't specify anything, that's the file that it assumes that I want. And it gives it back to me. And it starts going through that file. And it goes, awesome. Can do, got it. Well, actually this one. This ends up being the location of the favicon. All right, cool. I don't have that actually. So I ask for the favicon and I get it back. All right, I keep going. And then this build files will be auto-injected. So I need a JavaScript file. Cool, where is it? It's called app.js. It's also on that same server. Cool, give me it. Then when it gets that back, it starts going through that file. It goes, oh, neat, you want me to fetch? Can do.
makes the fetch, that goes in the database, whatever, comes back. So this is a static server. All it is just some files. This is a dynamic server. It's a computer that has programs installed and is running Rails S and whatever else. And talk to databases. Even this is technically another server that has that database set up on it and knows how to answer requests for that. They're all just computers. Your laptop, this static server, the dynamic server, the server that's running the database, they're all the same fucking thing. They have different things installed on them. They're for different purposes. They're optimized for different things. But all of these things are just computers. They could be Raspberry Pis for all we give a shit. Same with the DNS. Yep.
So tell me if I'm right here or if I'm just off the model land.
Mhm.
Right? So you take your computer, which has an IP address.
Yep.
And then you go to a typical site.
Mhm.
Maybe you're looking for something. So say you go to Google next, and then
Okay.
it kind of adds its IP address onto the end of yours. And then when you go to a certain link, it adds that IP address onto the end of it, and it kind of chains them together. No.
Nope. Think of it more like, so in this World Wide Web of ours, I don't actually have an IP address. The hub does. Your home does. Like when you got your internet installed, that's what was happening there.
There's no like hard-coded IP address that each computer has.
No, the thing you're thinking of is a MAC address. That's burned in when it gets made. That's a different thing. So this is the like internet IP address for the hub. Anybody can make a request to that if they want to. Now, since it's a router in a building, like if they set this up right, you can be like, hey, can you give me a file? Kablock, 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 kablock. This is probably not accepting too many external requests, but you can use ping or some command line tool and just send some rando message on some rando port to whatever IP address or router is on, and this router will get it. But I want Kyle's files over here, which are on 35.189.0.1. Cool, so my computer looked up all that stuff, and I go, neat. Or rather, it asked this computer to look that up for me and get all this shit. I get it back and go, all right, I need to make a request to this IP address. The hub, make it so. And I have to go through the hub because that's the thing that's actually on the internet. The hub is on the internet, I'm on the hub. So I go, yo, the hub, can you get my shit? And it goes, yeah, totally. Beep, 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 beep. Beep, boop, 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 boop. Gets it back, sends it back to me. When I'm going to different sites on the web, I go to Google. Cool. I get my Google shit back, and I make another request. And I follow the link somewhere. Maybe if it's on the same computer, it's just another request to that same server. Another link. Fuck this. I'm going to a different site. Cool. Different site. Works like that. Adam.
So for Jared's class, we deployed a Rails app
Mm-hmm.
Firebase.
Mm-hmm.
But here, yeah, I don't know why we did that, but
Yeah, you can't do that.
what? I swear we did it, because I have.
If you have a separate client,
It was to be broken.
It was, I could have sworn we used Firebase.
no, if there's if you're at, I feel like there's some like Rails 6 apps that generate HTML files and CSS files and that kind of stuff, static files, that you might be able to do that with, but in general, you'd never,
Yeah.
that's not possible.
Brad, you were in that class, right?
Yeah, it was React.
through
It was
okay.
React,
Yeah, that was messy. Alright. So you just wouldn't mix them up. You just can't even do it.
Correct.
Okay. Is there something that has to do with like the gem files?
Nope.
It's just that.
If it's just some files, and specifically in HTML, CSS, JavaScript, static deployment.
So Firebase deals with files that only a browser would understand, essentially.
Correct. You can also like put images,
Okay.
like anything that's just a file. If I need it to run the files, if I need it to run an application, it's got to be a different kind of thing.
I want to ask a really kind of ridiculous question.
Actually, hang on, before you get into that, another distinction I want to make here. So we can trick Heroku into doing static deployment. Yeah, you can write a Node app that will just deliver a file that somebody asked for. You can write a PHP app that will deliver any file that somebody wants. And if it's on that computer, pew, you got it. The problem is that dirt cheap, hella expensive. Just giving somebody files is like, that's like commodity, easy ass work. This, you want to monopolize an entire computer running your app? That's bucks.
There is no way to put security on the front end of the app, right? Okay, just.
Nope. Correct. Doug.
So, I guess like when I was off trying to figure out what I wanted to serve on my private page, I feel like I was shystered by Firebase because they're saying they're like an app machine, but really they're just like a file server, and because your browser can read all this, do snazzy stuff with it.
Mhm.
It's like old school like website, really.
Yes, but Firebase in particular has a little bit of extra sauce. So we go to the Firebase. Control panel.
I know you can plug in the other Google crap, but
The other Google crap is like pretty cool. So let's see, where's ours? Hike. All right, so here's ours. We're using the hosting function here, which there's actually like a couple neat things built into this. It's relatively easy to set up Google Analytics on this, which is cool. Also, I have all the different deployments that I've made. So, for example, I don't know why that got so big. All right. I can do one button rollbacks. That's pretty cool. And another thing that I like, you can see your usage pretty easily on it. And one other thing that is pretty dope. Yep. Project settings. No, not this. Any day now, baby. The other thing that it will do is let you configure domains really easily, and it'll give you an SSL certificate for free. So an SSL certificate is what allows you to use HTTPS instead of HTTP.
I agree, that's true, it does.
And you can get, you can also get those for like self-hosted stuff, but it's more work. It's really easy to do in Firebase. The other things they tack on top of this, their auth system, their database system, their static file storage system, their Lambda equivalent. I've never used their machine learning thing before, but
What does the authentication let you do? Because if it's just the front end with like 3 files, then
well, that's this part of it.
Oh, okay, gotcha. Okay.
Like,
you can also have it use their database system, which like, it's not the same as, oh, I run a database migration and I see it's like a very closed thing. But their database system actually does something kind of neat that has helped many a capstone student pretend that they have sockets on their app. So their database system does a thing called three-way binding, which is, so you're learning React right now about, all right, we have this state here, we pass it into this component, and they're kind of synchronized, right? It changes here, it also changes here. A three-way binding adds another step to that, which is it's also synchronized with the internet. So if it changes in any of those places, it's automatically reflected. So if somebody's connected to your app and you're using the Firebase database service, you can like type shit into their database and it'll like live change on people's screens. If anybody changes their thing on their computer, it also changes the database in real time. It scales terribly, but looks really cool on projects.
So that's good for games if you're trying to have like an interactive
Sure.
experience between multiple people.
Yep. Everything just gets synchronized in real time. Yep.
What's beneficial about having the HTTPS versus HTTP?
End-to-end encryption. So without it, when I'm sending a request, I want to send, I'm on this site, I'm logging in. I'm just using HTTP. So send my username and password. Hey, the hub, can you send my username and password over here? And the hub goes, why, yes, I can. And the hub also like keeps a copy of that, and now they have my username and password. Or anybody who's like utility guy who's like plugged an Ethernet cable into our router, and I can also like see all that traffic in real time. They also know my username and password now. Oops, that sucks. The way that HTTPS works is before we actually send anything, me and this computer agree on a way to encrypt the traffic that we're going to send each other. And then what the hub gets, they know where I'm sending it, but they don't know any of the details. It's gobbledygook to them, and they can't decrypt it. So this gets sent over here, and then they decrypt it. And all that entire like negotiation happens in a fraction of a second. It's so fucking cool. Yeah, Doug.
Well, is that something that you envision becoming ubiquitous, or is that like?
Oh yeah.
Because like, yeah.
And like, in fact, if we try to go to a site that's HTTP only, there's probably one. Let's see. Oh, yeah, that's a redirect for if somebody's trying to do that to you. Maybe this one. Firefox does this now. Shoot. Chrome does it. I think Chrome also does it at this point. If you go to an HTTP only site, it doesn't just give you like not the lock in the corner. It goes, careful! You probably don't want to go to this site. Their certificate is out of date. Oh, we really can't recommend doing this. And you have to click through a bunch of fucking things to go there anyway. That's where we're at today. I don't think it's going to be much longer for old HTTP.
So where would you deploy like a professional site, like your website? Like where is Kyle Quiverly?
Firebase and Heroku.
It's the same thing. How did you get?
Developdenver.org, Firebase and Heroku.
Did you get rid of like the little emblem thing that comes up?
Oh yeah, all that is the favicon. That's not like a thing. That's not like a watermark or anything like that. It's just these. Just swap them out with the one you actually want.
What takes the 32 by 32? I know the browser one's the 16 by Do some browsers now give you more bigger?
Yup. And so what you do is go to a site that generates them, the favicon generator. There's different ones for different browsers and different phones and whatever
Oh, okay,
else.
okay, someone's mobile.
Yep. So I take, there we go. Create a favicon out of Evan Greer's whatever. And like on your regular just static HTML page, you could add all of these, or you can download these, all of it as a pack. But yeah, that just becomes a favicon. But yeah, it's not a limitation of the free tier or anything. You just need to have a favicon. But yeah, that's what all of these are. What else? Yeah.
Is GitHub's personal page, portfolio page, just a static?
Yep, it just takes whatever static files you have in that repo and static serves them. That's all it does. Yep.
As I was looking into it, I found you could also host a page from GitHub. Is there any reason you think that's a bad idea or not?
Nope.
'Cause I was,
You'll get one. Well, you get one with a URL you can customize. The rest of them, yeah, that's totally fine.
So what about security on the dynamic?
Sure. That's all handled by this. There's nothing for this to be secure about. It's just files. And like, if not everybody should be able to access those files, put it behind this. So like, you should only be able to see that image if you're logged in. Okay, we can also put a static server over here and say, all right, I would like my user-only pictures, my private Facebook pictures, whatever. So I ask this server, it checks my credentials, and if they pass, it goes and gets those for me and sends them back.
So like that Jamstack stuff, that completely just cuts out that dynamic server. It's really just the static thing.
That's all it is, which is awesome because this way faster than that and cheaper. And since it's just some files, there's nothing to hack. You can't hack into a static site. What would you be hacking? Just getting copies of the files that it was already giving you for free?
Is there something that says it's only read-only? There's no update including those files that could edit them?
Oh yeah, that's the nature of this, is that it is serving the files to you, but it's not, like getting the files in, that's part of that deployment process. So that deploy, it goes, whoa, 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 where's your key? And so like over here for this one, that's, not that. Oh, it's actually in my home directory. Well, it should be. In here, maybe? One of these folders has my token for Firebase. There it is. Yeah. This has like my my keys that allow me to host a Firebase. Yeah.
What about like let's say so the Jamstack people they're only serving up. And let's get to the root of my question. Can you serve like React apps on Firebase?
Yep. What you can't do is the way that you're doing it right now, where you type npm start. That needs npm to be installed. So that's not static anymore. But if I go to some rando React app that I did with Create React App, cool. So here's something that got made with React. I can npm start it. Oops, something it doesn't like. Cool. So npm start. Let's go different React app. Cool. DOM calculator. It's probably I'm using a different version of Node, I think. I see. It's a ESLint. So let's blow out the package lock and npm install this. And we do it now. Install geslint. Okay, got rid of the lock. Oh, let the node modules. RF node modules. What the heck in the world? npm ls ESLint. Okay, nothing else has. Let's skip the pre-flight check. Echo skip pre-flight check into .env. All right. Will you do it now? There we go. All right, so I am running a React app. Neat. Works great. However, if I have to run npm start, well, that doesn't do me much good because I can't static deploy it. So I can take this and put it on Heroku. Heroku will npm start any repo that I give it. Works just fine. If I wanted to do a dynamic deployment of this, which is stupid. So what I want to do instead is do npm run build, which also comes with Create React App. And it's going to take my components and my whatever else I have and turn those into these. An index.html file, a CSS file, some gerbil script files, this service worker, manifest, just some files. And now, if I want to deploy this, I Firebase deploy this folder. That's how you do a static deployment of a React app.
Build static folder, is that what it is?
It was called the build folder. Sometimes it's called the dist folder. But yeah,
So anytime you make changes,
you have to rebuild it. And so it's pretty common to have a like, let's see, find an example. So like I have these build commands here, and then when I'm deploying, I thought the build was part of this. You say like, do my build and then deploy it. But you only need to do that when you're deploying, because the rest of the time you just have that npm start. It's fine on your computer. It's way faster. But we get to take advantage of static serving if we build it. Yep.
So I've been getting very curious about the security part of things. I'm wondering, what I've been told is that what we're learning is not very secure.
Yeah, generally so.
Will we go deeper into like security, like more secure versions of Off?
Nope. not in a 15-week program.
Should we be worried about that for like our confidence?
No, like, dude, the thing is, your first job, if somebody is putting you in charge of security for the company, they kind of deserve whatever they get. So, no, I would not say that's like a worthwhile thing to worry about.
Are there third party, if we build something, say,
Mhm.
make a little e-store for someone,
Mhm.
should we look into like a third party Off?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, if you want to do that right now, like, if you use something like, it's a little hot when everyone's using that, Shopify. Shopify has a lot of that stuff kind of baked into it already. WordPress does too, if you like upgrading your WordPress installation every 25 seconds. Because 80% of the world is WordPress sites, and that makes it a very big attack target. So people attack the fuck out of WordPress. And so you get real good at upgrading WordPress sites.
With Shopify, can you still do, JavaScript and HTML and Rails and all that?
Yeah, you can also split your app out so that it doesn't have to all be the same thing. You can have, all right, I have this static part of the app. I have a server rendered part. So this is like the Rails shit that we didn't teach you, that we skipped, old mod 2. Is server rendered is dynamic HTML. So there is no HTML pages. There's those templates, right? And it builds what the HTML page would be every single time you ask for something. So that's a server rendered app. So you could have a static part of your app and a server rendered part of your app and a Shopify part of your app. And put them all in the same domain. Why not? So your users, the client's requests come in here, and you have something that just traffic cops and says, all right, go to this part of the app, this part of the app, this part of the app. But you see this all the time, especially if you go to like banned merch pages or anything like that. All of a sudden it looks slightly different and usually a little bit more put together. You're probably just on the Shopify part of their page.
They just plug it into the website.
Exactly. Or even things like, I'm actually really excited about this because they're the first people to see this. Oh shit, it's on my other computer. Stand by.
Now, I'm glad I asked that, because I was like, he's staying for someone. I was getting sketched out.
Yeah, I forget, he did show that. He was like, look, it just like, I was into one thing.
The build.
Yeah. I was like, that's right. Which is weird that you can like build something that doesn't require any packages. It just like turns it all into, yeah, just JavaScript.
Yeah.
That's weird.
Okay, so cool. This is this year's Develop Denver site.
Cool.
Dates are wrong, but
Was that for the
but who cares? It's the 13th and 14th. So for this, you can even make those integrations more subtle. So if we go to,
Digging the font.
that is DVLP OCR. That is our custom typeface. So if we go to the tickets,
Sideways like that?
yes, we well, I'm the one who coded that, and it was fucking hard to do. Really, anything that's like 90-degree oriented like that is like not how your browser's supposed to work. So there's some like wizardry that goes around with that. The number of fucking people who wrote us last year were like, "Excuse your menu sideways. Excuse me. And one of the guys who works on this with me wrote somebody back once with a complicated diagram of how to arrange a system of mirrors to make it look right.
Oh my God,
It's amazing.
hilarious.
That person did not buy a ticket. All right, so
I love your hamburger menu, by the way.
yeah, it's pretty great. All right, so this is our like buy a ticket page. I wrote all of this except this. This is Stripe. And so Stripe is our credit card processor, and it's got all kinds of cool, neat stuff. I didn't write any of those animations. That's just like a drop-in. And when you do that, oops. It's probably mad because I didn't give it a credit card. Yep. But like all of that stuff is handled by Stripe. And I can even see things like, if I go over here and I look at, where is it? Events. So like every single time somebody tries to do something through our payment system, like all those events get logged. Some of our like tax forms and shit, like all that goes through this. Don't code that shit yourself. You will do it wrong. And so we just get all that stuff for free, and you don't even notice it on the site. Real lightweight integration.
Because you have a Stripe membership?
Yep, because I use Stripe. It's not really a membership. They take a percentage of all the transactions. And yeah, so we get to seamlessly have that. There's a little bit on the server side for that also, but all the hard stuff, like I basically just say, here's a credit card number. I would like to charge them this much, please. And Stripe handles receipts for that. It handles verifying that the card is real. They handle chargebacks. They handle all of that kind of shit. And then I just get an HTTP response going like, it worked and the money is in your bank account now. So you can add the ticket to your page or whatever.
That's something we could, foreseeably do in the future with our skill set.
Well, if you go to webappkitchensink.com, which was made by Handsome Genius, Stripe payments.
Oh, it tells you how to do it.
Yeah, it's step-by-step instructions and annotated code on how to do Stripe.
We've done this.
Well, the Stripe has like multiple tools too. This is the hardest one, and it's not that bad. They also have ones that are like for non-technical people. That was like copy and paste this code into your file that says this in between here and here. Handles all of it for you.
Hence the name kitchen sink. That's like a dirty way.
No, that's good.
kitchen sink is, you'll see this a lot in like programming docs. A kitchen sink is everything but the kitchen sink. So if it also has the kitchen sink, it really is everything. So this is a site that I made to try, like, people like, how do you do Stripe payments in an app? How do you do cameras in an app? How do you do social auth? And so I was trying to keep that stuff in one place. And so anything you can do with a browser, you can see in one place. Uploading files. As you can tell, I did not get around to adding a whole bunch of stuff to this, but like these 4 in particular are the things that I get asked the most about for Capstone, so still get a whole lot of action out of it. Cool, what else you want to know?
Can we ask completely unrelated questions?
After the lesson.
Cool.
Anything else you want to know? Thank you, bye! All right, what do you want to know, Brad?